Alright, this is Module 1 by Jeremy Millsap. I'm going to start with my big picture statement, and I think one of the most important aspects of the big picture statement are the implications of the future. And one thing the Learning Strategies textbook talks about a lot is having effective meetings and being able to plan and organize meetings that are useful. And that's so important, not just in teaching, but also in the business world. In my experience, I've been in a lot of meetings that were essentially just wasted time because people hadn't really thought through what they were going to teach or thought through how to prepare for them. And the textbook also talks a lot about golden technique solutions. That's a big part of my experience. People are going to try and tell you there's an easy way to do something or something that's going to solve all your problems. That's almost never the case. Different things generally work well for different people. The best thing you can always do for people is just give them advice, tell them what's worked for you, and see if it works for them. And if not, try and figure out something else that will work. Another thing, this comment in Edutopia, when she's talking about, the teacher's talking about how she was really good at teaching institutionalization, but there were a lot of gaps in terms of making it relatable. I think that's really important for students. And also talking about data-driven performance. So many times people think, I'm great at this, and in reality, the numbers haven't shown that. In my own experience, I've worked in sales. I'd get a lot of leads, but sometimes my completion rate wouldn't be very good, and it just meant that, we weren't getting through to people. We couldn't contact them, so that's something to always be aware of. And I really like the transformational leadership comment. I think that's not just true if you're a principal, but also if you're a teacher. If you see that someone's doing really well, ask them to do more, push them, expand their boundaries, try and make them achieve more than they were capable of. Now in the thinking section, many teachers do not recognize the responsibility for making decisions. They tend to blame the administration, the school board. This is, again, true not just in the teaching world, but also in the business world. A big part of the reason I put that down there was because, in my experience, people always do this. Like if they're ever struggling with a job or a company, they're always going to blame management or principals or whoever is responsible besides themselves. And this next quote is from the What is a Professional Learning Community? And they're just talking about, some teachers lower their expectations for ways to assist the students before and after school, and some allow struggling students to fail. That's just how they deal with students who are coming in who aren't prepared. Obviously, the best solution is to assist students before and after school. That's, as a teacher, it's your job to teach. Even if they're not prepared, that's your job to fill in the gaps. Teachers work in collaborative teams daily to clarify essential outcomes for their grade levels and courses and to align these outcomes with state standards. Obviously, that's super important. Again, working together. If you don't work together, you only have your ideas. You don't have anyone else's ideas for how to improve, and other people aren't going to know if you're improving. Really, outside of the data to show that what you've done has worked at the end of the year. They don't know if you're trying to improve your numbers or trying to figure something else out. Too much store is placed in a leader as the enabler of solutions. That's from Visions That Blind. I think that's true with a lot of leaders I've met. The leader gets an idea that they're going to be effective and implement what they're going to do, and they don't worry about the external consequences of people they're managing. Generally, those plans will fail. Another thing from Visions of the Blind is a mistake for the principal to focus on a vision too early in the process. You have, again, like whenever you're managing people, you have to be able to see that where you are and where you want to be and who you're working with. And if you can't see that, you're not going to be successful. Principals can see themselves as democratic, inclusive leaders while they're actually authoritarian. That's so true. A lot of times, managers or professionals or teachers will, think that they're just doing their job and realize that nobody around them likes them, and that always leads to disappointment and poor results, essentially. Think feel. Like an artist, a good teacher makes decisions from both the technical and creative standpoint. I kind of like that, and made me think about. There's a lot more teaching than just explaining something or lecturing. You kind of have to examine what you're teaching and examine the student and figure out the best way to have those two meet in the middle. Having the support made her willing to take the risk. Edutopia, I just kind of like that line because it pointed out that people are so much more successful when they have support and people are encouraging them and giving them ideas and helping them out. A line from Ed Week, my curriculum scolds me as if I were a student without a hall pass. Now where are you going? And more importantly, where do you want to be? That just kind of made me laugh because I can relate to that. It's so easy to get off track when you're thinking about something else, or you're like, I'd like to go this direction, I'd like to go that direction, and then by the end you realize, I want to be over here, but really I'm over here. And that's a big part of not just teaching but life. And we observed our willingness to be learners, to give up some control and allow teachers to take the steps. I was just talking about micromanaging teachers and how overly micromanaging from principals of administration can be really ineffective. They need to take and recognize the wealth of knowledge that teachers brought to the group, contributed to the development of collaborative and supportive groups of learners. That's from Delta Kappa Gamma. If you just assume your teachers don't know anything, you're really wasting your time and theirs. These people went to school for years to learn their material and master their material and learn how to teach. So you got to recognize that and start from there. Be willing to give them some leeway and utilize what they've learned, but also utilize what you know works best, and find a happy medium. Charismatic and inspiring, transformational leaders are well-versed in the power of language and imagery. I kind of like that. Just talks about explaining something, and if you're a teacher or a principal, you want to be able to explain things the best you can. You want to be an effective conveyor of ideas, I guess, as it were. So, just being able to put someone in their position, as someone who wants to be a history teacher, just being able to give someone the idea of what's going to be like, what it was like to live in that time period, or to interact with these people, or these people with different personalities or ideas. I think that's really kind of a cool idea. What was new? 2 kinds of knowledge content and process knowledge. I didn't know that there's 2 different types of knowledge: content knowledge and process knowledge. I kind of like that point, though, that there's simply facts, like kind of like a book smart sort of idea, and process knowledge, like actually kind of learning how to go about doing things. Active management by exception. That's leadership styles and value systems of school principals. Then there's a great man theory. The leader is endowed with extraordinary traits with which he influences the team. I'd heard that idea before, that some people are just great leaders, or that they are naturally charismatic, or they're naturally able to get people to excel beyond what they are. I didn't know it was called great man theory, but you kind of think of like Braveheart or something like that. 5 leadership styles: constructivist, transformational, distributed, invitational, strategic. That's from The Advocate. I didn't know there were so many different types of leadership. I think I'd want to probably be a transformational leader, just try and get students to be better than they were and utilize their skill sets. Time for meetings stuffed and scheduled during the school day. Participation in professional learning community may be an expected teaching responsibility. I kind of like that they were talking about how teaching can be really useful if you're doing the school day rather than before and after, to really make it mandatory and not let people get out of it. Leaders with pragmatic motivational style lean more toward transactional leadership, and leaders with moral leadership style lean more toward transformational leadership style. Just talking about 2 different types of leadership. Transactional leader, like, you do this good thing, we'll give you something. Moral leadership, we want you to be better, we want you to be the best you can be. So I'd obviously argue moral leadership is superior to the 2. The teachers, that's 4th grade teachers, but they hope will have mastered by the time they leave 3rd grade. I really like that idea. Just talking to the next grade up. Well, where were the gaps? What do you wish they learned? So I think that could be really useful. Connections to personal life. This is one of my favorite subsections whenever we do these. A lack of observable, measurable faculty progress or student achievement can erode support, motivation, enthusiasm for the process. if you don't see your results, if you don't see you're getting forward, people just get demotivated. That's so true. No matter what you're working on. A dysfunctional school or faculty culture can contribute to tensions, conflicts, factions, and other issues that undermine the potential benefits of professional learning communities. I've been in dysfunctional schools. I've worked with dysfunctional teachers. I've worked with dysfunctional classrooms, and if you can't have that basic starting point, it doesn't matter what planning you do or what organization you do. Selected passages. The first one I did was the wishes and beliefs of society are subtly translated into values, curriculum, and instruction. I chose this line to select the power of education not to shape young minds, but to prepare them for entering the society they live in. It's just it kind of reminds me a little bit of North Korea, actually. You think about how much they learn about how the United States started the Korean War, or that the United States is evil, or even you think about American history. There's an old joke that every time the Indians won a battle, it was called a battle, and it was called a massacre, and every time the Americans won a battle, it was called a battle. So it really reflects the attitudes of the society. The classroom teacher, you'll exceed air traffic controllers the number of decisions made per day. I just like that because it just reflects on how hard it can be to be a teacher, and how much you need to know, and how fast you need to think on your feet, which is just part of the reason I think I'm drawn to the profession. So